And we are live. Welcome everyone. Today's stream will talk about the interesting case about Harvey Weinstein, and as current information allows us to see, he doesn't appear to be suicidal. So let's keep an eye on that. Now, Richard, Paolo, and Michael had a nice talk chat on the Discord server on this case. So I thought, you know what, this is something to share with all the people out there. Unfortunately, Michael hasn't been able to join us. So Paolo and Richard will take the floor in a moment, and then we're going to deliberate on the Harvey Weinstein and the outrage machine that's coming with it. Who wants to go first?
Well, I was very interested in the two links that Richard provided. The one, which is funny because one comes from the World Socialist website, and these still seem to be the old school lefties, or more about protections for the individual, and that's the thing that they highlight more. The way that they ran roughshod all over Weinstein just to get a conviction is the fuel just to eventually getting him acquitted, because there are process mistakes in here that it would be impossible for a higher court to recognize that Weinstein's basic freedoms had been denied, and on a case like this, usually the district attorney tries to go for a conviction as fast as possible by any means possible, and in this case he had a judge that was sympathetic to that idea, so which is a dreadful combination. But what is more important here is, like Al Capone, everybody knows that Weinstein is guilty, but that is even more the reason to make sure that every little bit, every little paper, every little motion that's presented at the trial, all needs to go by the book to ensure that it's a solid, that will provide a solid conviction. This is not it.
Yeah. It is funny though that they keep trying it like that.
And they're willing to do this to Weinstein, who has access to high-priced lawyers, who can do any sort of legal maneuvering to get testimonies out, to get evidence out. But if this is on the books that you can do this to a defendant, someone who does not have the means, like Weinstein does, to get a decent lawyer, is just going to be completely eaten up by the courts. There will be no possible means of defense for anybody accused of anything, and that is precisely the biggest issue that the World Socialist website had.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting that people seem to think that this is a victory for the Me Too movement.
Yeah, and the Me Too movement is not very interested in going through all the legal motions. They want they like the idea of kangaroo courts and courts of public opinion.
Yes, and another aspect about the Me Too movement is that the Me Too movement is basically an extension of revenge culture, which is we are basically getting justice for the way that the women of the 17th century or the 16th century were oppressed back then, and so paybacks are a bitch motherfucker. and of course, uh, 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 from that socialist website article, one of the things is that that yes, the working class will be the most effective, particularly the minority working class, because uh, like the one video link that I sent to you, he was talking about the high school boy from Pennsylvania, and unfortunately, I see that there will be little to no support for when they put a white person on the hook versus a minority, because there are going to be no advocacy for the white man, because how can you do that without being declared a white supremacist, racist, Nazi, whatever? And
Mm-hmm.
and 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 there have been cases that were heard before that. I don't necessarily know the ethnicity, but I have heard the ladies talk about, like, she had mentioned one of the guys gets just dragged out of his home, beaten to death. They just doused the body in gasoline and set it on fire. And then when everybody's going home after they're washing up, then the original accuser says, "Yeah, I made that up." And
Yeah.
so at that point, it's like, well, you apologizing cannot restore what the gasoline had done, and it cannot undo his being beaten to death. And so, with the social justice warrior culture, since the white man has become basically the new combination of the black man from the Jim Crow era and the Jews from the World War II era, when this starts to come down on the working class white people, uh, I do not see a lot of sympathy being expressed, because part of this so-called female logic is that they even justify the woman lying, because there is this notion that's being pushed that, well, even though Susie lied about John, John must have done something to somebody who really couldn't come forward, and on behalf of the unknown person that he really did something to, yeah, Susie lied about him, but he had to have had done something, because otherwise Susie would not have lied about Jonathan.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the worst part. I mean, if a woman is claiming to be a victim, therefore it must be true.
Well, yeah, but nowadays women are victims of everything
Yeah, that's.
and anything and nothing. And it is like, I have said this as kind of a joke before, that women are victims of the exact same things that the dachshund dog barks at. And the dachshund dog, it will bark at anything, it will bark at nothing, and it damn sure barks at everything. And so that same list is the list of things that victimize women.
Mm-hmm.
And oh god, there was another thing. Okay, I've kind of lost one of my thoughts. So, Paolo.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we need to remind ourselves of is that there are certain behaviors that are expected in certain social outings, and in this case, this being Hollywood, sex is a currency, sex is a commodity. Um, the many of the movies try to push an image, sexual imagery, which is perfectly normal, as a way to attract audiences. And since there's search for stars who are physically attractive, sex will be used to get a part. Now, in the current culture, with the Me Too movement and the feminists who are sex negative, um, this victimization goes against everything that you would expect. Uh, because the way I see it, back in the 70s, sex positive feminists would have no problem with women using sex to get ahead in Hollywood, to use their sexuality as a weapon, as an advantage, in order to control their careers. So right now, I think I can argue that this is doing this current culture is doing a disservice to women, to a woman's personal objectives, by preventing them to use one of their best weapons to get ahead in their careers.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, if we look at Hollywood, the whole casting couch trope, storyline, however you want to call it, hell, it had its own porn. It was its own porn category. People knew that it was happening so long ahead of time. It's. Oh, who was it? I forgot the name of the actress, but she gave advice to up and coming actresses, and she basically said, if she's the one that if you ever get a job from Harvey Weinstein, don't ever go to him alone. And I don't think it's going to take 2 hours, Ludicrous. I wasn't planning on making it 2 hours, but then again, you never know with me. So yeah, no, I mean the whole Harvey Weinstein isn't the only one. The one thing that I found so disturbing. Now, I'm not here to defend Harvey Weinstein, not at all. I mean, throw the book at him, put him away for life, I don't care. But what are we putting him away for? Did he coerce these women into having sex with him? You know what? I'm 100% sure to go to say, well, yeah, probably. But he did so whilst offering these women roles in movies, right? Am I mistaken in thinking this?
Yeah, but there's the thing about Weinstein is that even in a Hollywood culture, they do consider him dangerous. There's a controlling aspect to the way he uses sex, not just for getting a movie now. It should be okay. You should maybe consider that it's okay. Okay, I'm going to sleep with a producer and get a part in the next movie, but there should be no expectations of control over your personal life, or of having continued access to sex. And that may be the problem here with Weinstein. Even for somebody who uses sex to determine who he's going to employ, it goes well beyond beyond favors. Doing a favor, it really does take advantage of women in ways that they're not prepared to offer beyond a simple sexual escapade.
Well, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, the thing is, this is the type of thing that it's difficult to prove, because it's part of what one would consider an ongoing relationship. And from what I can see in the U.S. legal system, having an ongoing relationship where you allow yourself to have sex several times with the same person, this is the type of situation that is thrown out by the courts, or where the district attorney declines to prosecute. because if you keep going back for more to offer sexual favors, you're not really being exploited. And people want to go to Hollywood to become rich and famous.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of actors in Hollywood are not rich and famous. So we could argue that if it's too much hassle to be in Hollywood to become an actor, go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
You should not debase yourself to have a to be continuously abused sexually, because it's not like you're being locked up in a basement. You
Mm-hmm.
can leave. You can go somewhere else. You can do something else. Not
Mm-hmm.
everyone is going to become the Angelina Jolie. Some people just end up becoming Rhea Perlman. So uh, so even though Weinstein ends up taking advantage of the situation to have access to women, the I see that I think that these women, they could have left they could have left, and imagine the situation. Weinstein gets a reputation as somebody who sleeps with many women in exchange for giving them roles, but
Mm-hmm.
the sexual favor is so one-sided that women would start to refuse to have sex with him. He would lose all his power in Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
because if he can even use the casting couch to get decent actors, why would any financier want to work with him?
Well, but
So
but that's the thing, and this is the point that Code Connection made in the chat as well. I mean, yeah, sure, the behavior of Harvey Weinstein may be despicable, but
mhm.
those women accepted it because it furthered their career, didn't it?
Yes,
Doesn't that then not make those women whores? It doesn't make them victims. It makes them part of, how do you call it? Part of a trade agreement. I do this, you do that. And sex is a commodity, so this is just a trade. And now they're unhappy with the trade, so they start doing this.
they need to
Yeah.
go in.
And one of the factors was that I had heard some people who actually had seen transcripts of the trial. They mentioned this thing about that uh, that some of these women had testified that Harvey had them under his thrall, his his enchantment, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that's why they were unable to leave or escape the man who needs a walker to get around. Is he had just enchanted them that
Mm,
much.
yeah. Well, the walker bit, to me, I mean, that's fake. He only did that. I am pretty sure he only did that to create um, the image of the poor weak man. I don't believe that he needs a walker. But then again, being in prison does do something. I mean, it's stressful, no doubt.
Well, it might be a ploy and it might not be.
Mm,
But uh, however, the
yeah.
uh, the fact that um, they they use this tactic of that he enchanted them, so therefore they were powerless to resist. Uh, uh, and that can actually cut both ways. Because let me send you something. I will send this to your DM mode, Wayne.
Okay.
Well, let's see. Okay, and let's go.
Okay. What's this?
Yeah.
No, that's the whole web page.
What?
You send me a link for a grandmother who got pregnant by an 11-year-old sentenced.
No, no, no. No. This was a live-in nanny, like the babysitter. 22-year-old woman
Okay.
gets pregnant by 11-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, when this one comes forth, and if she tries to use a similar claim, or say when the next one tries to use the similar claim of, yes, the 11-year-old boy enchanted me, in in such a way that I could not only not resist his advances, but um, uh, I just found him so irresistible.
Yeah. Well, this is still rape, though. I mean, I'm sorry. If you have sex with an 11-year-old boy, you're raping an 11-year-old boy. That's. Anyway,
Oh,
so I'm going to respond to what Code Connection also said in the chat. These women were still in control of their own brains. They weren't drunk or stoned. And it's funny because I remember having seen a video of Brett Weinstein basically begging a woman to have sex with him. And this was also one of those Hollywood women. And all I could think of, and in the end she agreed to have sex with him, but all I could think of is, my God, this guy is pathetic. I mean, I don't know if any of you saw it.
no, I missed out on that one.
It's some time ago that obviously I can't find it now. That's how it works. But yeah, no, it was really pathetic. And he was like, no, and please, oh, let me in, and oh, let me do this. And I like the girl, woman, whatever. She wasn't clear. She didn't clearly say yes or no. Fair enough. Or rather, she didn't say yes, but she didn't really clearly say no. So he kept begging and begging and begging. And in the end, she agreed to it. And I'm like, that's not the behavior of a predator. That's the behavior of a petulant child.
No, but see, but because he kept begging after the first refusal, then this is, by the Newspeak definition, this is what is called coercive behavior. She was coerced into doing it by his begging.
But, I mean, they could still say no.
Yes, but she should only have to be required to say no once, and the fact that he asked a second time made it coercion.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, when have women ever made sense consistently? This is something that makes sense to feminists.
It's amazingly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, see, where did this concept come from? Where consent is consent, but it is also revocable even after the completion of the act.
Yeah, and that is the main thing. And I mean,
Well,
I still think Harvey Weinstein is a despicable human being, but is his action criminal? Is coercing a woman a criminal fact?
Well, also, is anything that he had done criminal in nature? And unfortunately, we have many of people who actually do wish to redefine what is and what is not a crime and act accordingly. And, 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 and then part of the acting accordingly means, yes, let's show up with the pitchforks, the torches, and, and and a stout length of rope,
Mm-hmm.
and about 2 jerry cans of gasoline, and when all is said and done, at uh, one of the things that is ultra worrying me is that when this does start happening to the lower class white folks, is law enforcement even going to bother to investigate?
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
know, because this is something that a lot of, say, minority activists have been claiming about the segregation era in the United States, is that when something like that would happen to a certain ethnicity, that that the local law enforcement would just kind of sweep it under the rug, and and we are in this current zeitgeist where right now, you know, that if it does become a working class white man, or say the uh, uh, here in the U.S. the trailer park class white people, you know, and that guy gets drug out of his house and beaten to death. I see the woke left, the SJWs, and every minority group who they claim to hold voice for, just basically cheering in the the streets and such. Just like, say, if you remember the footage from September 11th, when they showed all of the people over in the Middle East cheering and celebrating that, as the Twin Towers had come down.
mm-hmm.
And when that starts to happen, uh, but one of the things that a lot of the ethnic minorities are overlooking is that if someone is willing to be that blatant to do that to white people, and they who still think that white people hold them in a lower esteem, the
Mm-hmm.
rest of you guys are totally fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, totally fucked.
But I mean, there are plenty of things that are questionable about the whole situation. I mean, again, behavior of Weinstein good? No. But
Oh,
now all of a sudden these women are remembering things that happened to them 30 years ago. And it's true because they say it's true. And it doesn't make sense.
yeah, but there has been way too much so-called pop psychology, such as this concept of repressed memories that surface years and years later. And you yourself do work. Is it in the psychiatric medicine or the psychological field?
Well, psychiatric and psychological, both actually.
Yeah, and and uh, and so, according to the concept that is put forth, is there actually such a thing as repressed memories from, say, traumatic events from your personal experience?
The thing is, memories are a terrible thing So can you repress memories? Yes, you can. Can you remember what you repressed? No, you can't. Because you constantly adjust your own memories. And this will make it worse and worse and worse. So it is very possible that someone will remember something has happened to them, even though it hasn't. And that can go really far, to be honest.
Yes, I do remember. I think that is called memory hacking. If you basically coach a person the right way, you can basically, with sufficient coaching, they wind up actually believing what they are being fed.
Yeah. And this goes all directions. I mean, in all fairness, Stockholm Syndrome is kind of something like that. How you will start identifying, how your memory starts changing. And after you are freed from your oppressive state, you will still defend what you can defend because, well, it wasn't so bad this, it wasn't so bad that. Our memories are constantly shaped by our emotions, funny enough, and reshaped. And it's there is no worse witness than an eyewitness.
Yeah. Yes, I remember there was another gentleman, and he was talking about he was in a history class, and he was asking the teacher about something, and this was after the teacher had made something, and he had mentioned that the teacher took her glasses off and threw them onto his desk. And then he had asked, or no, the teacher had asked the class, what just happened? And there were at least 4 different answers.
Yeah.
Because there were some students who even saw that, said that this student threw something at the teacher. And she threw her glasses onto his desk, and some students, recalled that, and that was right at the time it happened, and they still could not, so. Did they actually not see it as it happened?
No, but that's the thing. And it's there are so many things within our memory, within our perception, that are tainting what we see. And even in our direct interaction, we are tainting what we are perceiving. It's called the perceptual set. We see certain things, we ignore other things, and we give things different meanings based on what we think it means. And this is actually quite a well established psychological fact, but feminism goes straight against it. This is kind of funny because I think a few years ago there was this app you could download on your phone to consent up front, and they both had to agree with it. They both had a picture of it, and feminists hated that app because it proved that there was consent.
Yeah, but you would figure that even the feminists would figure out ways of getting around that because...
Yeah, but that's the thing. They couldn't. They couldn't get around it because it's both of them agreed on forehand. This is what we're going to do. This is how far we are allowed to go. These are our faces, this is what we accept. Haida renovatio.
Yes.
And
Yes,
because of that, they couldn't retroactively retract consent.
Okay, they couldn't retroactively, but given the stuff that the jury in the Weinstein trial accepted, so either she was coerced off camera into consenting beforehand, or she was under his thrall or his enchantment, and so his enchantment rendered her unable to refuse.
I'm not sure if I said high renovatio yet, but high renovatio.
I think you did.
See, I'm getting old. I understand what you're saying, but well, you both have to consent using your own phone and your own app. So yeah, there is no proof to say, well, yeah, but she was coerced. No, she wasn't. She could have not said yes. She could have not. And mind you, this happens at the beginning of the evening, so nothing has happened yet.
Okay, so basically, would this be a one-off recording before things start?
I guess so.
Yeah, but so then you have this time frame from when the consent actually happens, even recorded, to when something else happens, and
No, I agree.
and it turns into a case of, well, from time index A, sometime afterwards, I did change my mind.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
and-
which is acceptable.
and he
But-
was supposed to have just known, because even though what I did is I typed my refusal long form into an Enigma machine, and I did not give him the Enigma machine cipher settings. He should have known just by looking at the enciphered message that I did not want to go any further.
But that doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, you can say no during. I mean, you can say no at any time. But you cannot say no after. That's the only thing that matters. And that's why feminists were so upset about it. Because basically, it was proof that the guy, well, basically wasn't doing a bad thing. I'm not sure if it'll hold up in a court of law, mind you, because, yeah, there is that.
Yeah, because
well, the app is the app sounds that app sounds that it's that it actually sounds a bit dangerous, because just you can't shouldn't consent beforehand to everything, because you don't know how the night's going to go, and just because you say yes to one thing, it doesn't mean you say yes to everything. And here's the thing: going back to memories. One of the I was looking over the Atlantic article you gave us, and the problem with getting rape convictions, it's that more than any other any other criminal procedure, it relies too much on victim testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And consider that the victim can either be exploiting the situation on personal benefit, or be emotionally scarred from the event. So it can go both ways. All the memories are going to be fallible, and any defense attorney should be able to throw the testimony out. But
Yeah.
looking over here, it seems that it's extremely difficult to get the legal system to go over to get a they purposely create hurdles to prevent that prevent more convictions in case of rape, which is how we got into the situation with Weinstein, because they went over all of those steps. But even at the police officer level, the police officer should not try to discourage victims. Apparently, this is a situation. They discourage victims from going forward with complaints.
Mm-hmm.
And investigating a complaint should be what the police do. If the complaint does not pan out, if they it should not be seen as discouraging. And another thing is that they're not using they could use the complaints to form some sort of behavior, because if it's one person like in Weinstein's case that has a repeated behavior uh, of harassing a number of different individuals,
Mm-hmm.
then that person should be constantly surveilled by police, because eventually they're going to make a mistake, or it will be possible to construct a body of evidence based on the various victims to ensure a conviction.
Mm-hmm.
What they shouldn't be doing, because apparently they tried to convince one of the victims to come forward, was years after the case. And that's another thing with victims. They should not try to pursue the case 5 years later, or even 5 months later. It happened. If it happened now, you need to go now. You need to make the complaint now while the trail is hot. That would actually help the police get an actual evidence-based conviction. What was that?
I have no idea.
Did John just join the call?
I don't know.
Well, that sounded like John, didn't it?
No, it didn't sound like John. I didn't see anyone join the call. I didn't invite anyone.
Did you press anything?
Not that I know of. Okay. I'm blaming you, Richard. I'm not sure why, but I'm blaming you.
Yes. So there are a lot of behaviors on the part of rape victims that continue to ensure that rape accusations do not go through, and they need to start taking responsibility. If they believe that they were attacked, that they were taken advantage of, that they were coerced to have sex, they need to go and file a complaint as quickly as possible. Explain what happened, get the evidence, and try to get it to court as soon as possible. But even if they don't get it to court, if the police have an investigation that doesn't pan out, if there's a second victim that maybe that one doesn't pan out, but if there's a third and fourth victim, it will pan out. The police will have a body of evidence that they can use to prosecute one person with a continuous behavior of harassing and taking sexual advantage of women. Nobody here is doing themselves any favor with the way that they've been doing, and that is why the only way that they could get a conviction on the Weinstein case was by railroading him and not using proper court procedure. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen now. I imagine that his lawyers are going to have an appeal ready. I don't know exactly to what level this should go, because apparently the court ignored a deliberation from the U.S. Supreme Court or the Texas Supreme Court. They It doesn't specify here.
I haven't followed that, so I wouldn't know.
It just says in 1967 the Supreme Court wrote in Spencer versus Texas, evidence of prior crimes introduced for no purpose other than to show criminal disposition would violate the due process clause. So I don't know if this is state Supreme Court or U.S. Supreme Court, but even so, a regular court should not be able to overturn a decision of the Supreme Court like this.
Yeah. Okay. My take on the Texas case was that they were trying to use previous claims of other crimes that didn't necessarily even be investigated as a means to try to convict the person.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I would actually have to reread that particular article, but you know that we have to be in some dire straits when the people who are standing up for due process are the socialists
Mm-hmm.
and no one else. Right now, the only ones who are standing up for due process is the World Socialist website, because everybody else wants to see Weinstein first hung and then burned the body afterwards.
Hmm.
You know, and this is just another version of the Bill Cosby thing. Because the only way that they got Bill Cosby to say what he said in a deposition is they basically promised Cosby that what you tell us in deposition will not be held against you criminally.
Yeah, but it will.
And then, yeah, and you know, and then somebody basically forwarded the deposition on towards the district attorney, and if the district attorney even would partway follow constitutional procedures, you know, he should have said, look, I can't use this. You only got this because you promised him that, one, you wouldn't forward it to me, and two, that I am not allowed to bring charges on it, but basically somebody wanted to burn Cosby.
Yeah, and that's
amongst
another
other
thing.
things.
But that's an American thing. I'm not sure if that's the same in Europe. But yeah, the police apparently are allowed to lie to you, which is something I never understood.
But the thing about the Cosby situation is he gave deposition in a civil matter, not a criminal. So so his deposition was for he was being sued for something, which means it was him versus the other party in a court. This was not part of a police matter. And then another one that comes to mind was that it has been making headlines that the state of Kansas has decided that to not pursue false accusers of that make these accusations, because prosecuting the people who are known to be lied, like Paolo was saying previously, will deter the real victims from stepping forward.
Well, yeah, that is true. I mean, I used to work. That's only almost 25 years ago by now. Fuck, I'm getting old. I used to work at a youth help agency, and there were girls, and we knew they were victim, And we tried to get them to report the crime to the police. But every single time, a big rape case made the news, and this has been going on for like more than 20 years at least. I mean, I'm talking 25 years ago. This happened then as well. There was a big rape case, and within a few weeks, it's proven to be a hoax. And a lot of these girls, they didn't want to come forward because they felt... But, I mean, look at that story. That story became huge news, and it's a lie. So when I come out, who's going to believe me? Because false rape accusations do more harm. They don't only do harm to the man who's being falsely accused. It's a terrible thing that it happens. But they also do harm to rape victims that haven't come forward yet. Because they are afraid to come forward because, well, let's be honest, there are so many stories out there that are fake. Who's going to believe me?
Yeah, but the more that you encourage the bad behavior, the more bad behavior there is.
Yeah.
Because say that there is a person who, has this bad habit of, say, calling emergency services out, such as there was this thing where people liked to call the fire department out even when a fire was not happening, just to see the fire trucks running.
Yeah, and see how fast they are.
Or something like that. But when they started prosecuting people for calling the fire department when there was no fire, that became a grand deterrent because basically if the fire department was somewhere where there wasn't a fire at, and now you have a truck full of frustrated firemen, and the next call does come in, and one there might be an actual fire breaking out, and so the firefighters are somewhere where they are not needed when something is actually happening, and two, every time they return back from a call like that, they are frustrated, and basically if they're pulling right back into the barn and they are receiving the alarm having come off, it will either slow down their response or everyone's going in, just a little bit worked up, and until they actually see the smoke, they might not be at their best.
Yeah, I'm sorry guys, but we've been busy for almost an hour. I am going to call it quits in a moment, but I am going to point out what Renovatio said. Femmes were looking to set what I call a monster precedent. If you have a monster on trial, the public wants convicted. Am I bad in reading? If you have a monster on trial, the public wants convicted. It's an opportunity to alter law and procedure, which the public would otherwise not allow. And I think Renovatio makes sense here. Because
that raises the problem. How do you define what is a monster? Who is a monster that you should remove their constitutional rights?
Yeah, but that's why they have been. I mean, the whole Weinstein case. There were more Weinstein case bullshit talks going on before the guy got indicted than now. So they've spent a lot of time creating a narrative. So it seems to be true. I mean, it seems that there is a push to make real the court of public opinion.
Well, Well, see, why do we need the court of law when we have Twitter?
Uh, sorry.
And remember there used to be this saying, you know, I got this inside information, and and it's like, well, how did you hear about that? Well, I heard it from this little birdie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and now, yes, I heard it from this little blue birdie.
Yeah. Tweet, tweet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Because remember, Twitter is for twits.
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
No, but see, another factor is that from a mental health aspect, what because some of these people who are doing this, some are just absolutely vindictive people. But a person who could be such a vindictive person, if they can find a mental health diagnosis or some type of mental condition to claim, well, yes, I am being a total see you next Tuesday, but that is because I have this particular condition. And because I have this particular condition, you must accommodate this condition by tolerating me being this type of a person.
Yeah.
And because I have this particular condition, I do not need to seek to change my ways at all because uh, for whatever reason, uh, uh, my condition should only be accommodated. It need not be treated or cured, no matter how much damage it does to others.
Hmm.
And, and so that is my take on that. Some people may be genuinely have genuine mental health conditions, and some may just try to use the declaration of having a mental condition as a way of uh, the, the something to hide behind to excuse really bad behavior.
Yeah. Well, that seems to be the case indeed. That seems to be the case indeed. Anyway, we've nearly done an hour. Paulo, you still want to add something?
No, I'm happy with what we talked about. I think it's important to point out that it goes against everything that in a democratic state we cannot have any sort of monster clause. Every person needs to be a human. It needs to be acknowledged that there are humans who have who have the ability to hurt other people, and but that every member of society should have the same rights to the same rights and protections, which means that if you want to remove somebody's freedom because they have hurt somebody else, you need to go through a thorough process to make sure that that person is going to jail beyond a reasonable doubt, and that if you are a victim, if you perceive yourself to be a victim, you need to be responsible to the other people, to the society around you. You need to make sure that you provide as much evidence as possible and as quickly as possible, not only for yourself but to protect other people from doing the same, and that you cannot do that by going to the court of public opinion.
Yeah, fair point. Richard, you want to have some closing argument?
I've got nothing, and I don't think any of us are in disagreement. I mean, I would say not only did Paolo hit the nail on the head, but in one blow he drove it flush.
Well, in all fairness, then I'm going to say thank you all for coming. We've been busy for almost an hour. And according to the stream analytics, we had 0 viewers for most of the stream. But that's in retrospect, because at the time we had about between 6 to 9 people. So I don't understand YouTube. I simply don't. But yeah, there is that. I'd like to thank everyone in the chat for joining. Thank you, Ludicrous, Renovatio, and early in this chat, Code Connection, and I can remember that I saw Green Badger. Not sure if they're still here. Ruben also joined, but that was pre-stream. Well, he didn't join us here, but he was in the chat. Then again, that's probably true for Code Green as well. Not Code Green. Green Badger Outdoors. But yeah, no, I'm hoping you guys were all still watching and listening. If not, well, too bad. If you did, thank you all for coming. And this is where I'm going to say, well, thank you all for coming. And see you all next